when the people today, the youth of today, the society, it could be me, it could be my parents, it could be my children, anybody, they are into more of social things, So maybe we have a good character at one point in life. Today we don't have that good character as perceived by the other person. Then we say that my friend, she's using Facebook all the time, she's doing selfie. So how do we get those people whom we have gone on a different path back on the new means?
Okay, so if we use the yogic parlance, so as I explained, this is also looked at as karana. Karana means instrument, and hence to use this instrument reliably, you need to read the instruction manual. No, appropriate usage also means understanding the context of that usage. So what we want is not a negation of what is. What we want as progress is appropriate usage. Asatoma Sadgamaya means knowing where it's appropriate to use. Guiding that is building character. And for that, it's to do with value orientation. When they see value in it and see larger value in other deeper processes, then they would be able to determine where to use it, when to use it, how to use it, and that is appropriate usage. And that leads to dharma. Dhru means to sustain or stabilize. So individual action that stabilizes larger operation of society, that is dharma. Adharma is that which destabilizes larger operation. So if we show them this path, that is definition of meaning. There I remember a personal anecdote, which is, I've quoted this many places. Once in traveling in the Himalayas, I encountered an old lady. We were stuck in a landslide, and everyone was frustrated, was fretting and fuming. This old lady was beating the stones and stacking them away. She was employed by the government to do that. I found she was absolutely fabulous. Just beating, no sign of any agitation, nothing at all. Hot sun, just working. So I asked her. I was very curious to find out what motivates her. So I asked her, "Maji, aap ye kyun kar rahi hain?" She just plainly looked at me and said, "So that you can be happy back home." I've not encountered such a person. I've interacted with many IT professionals and so on. When I ask them, "Why are you doing what you're doing?" First thing, many people jump up and say, "I don't want to be here, but what to do? I'm stuck." No, stuck and miserable is not the best of life experiences.
This is what I want to say when he said good and bad. It's our own perceptions, good or bad, or maybe we look at other people, this is not right, this is right. In fact, this is our own understanding, how we put them to good or bad. Unless and until the other person understands the concept, good or bad, whatever you call it, they cannot change it. They cannot think of beyond their limits.
And that's also to do with right education. Right now, our education system, is it value neutral or value centric?
Education here,
value neutral. And there, much is to be expected, right? Obviously, how can we expect rigorous values when the whole educational input is value neutral?
See, education here, you mean the qualification, ABC or whatever you call it, is that education? Or it's something more than that perspective of thinking of like what education?
Yeah, that's the larger process. But when we say education right now, it's systematic education. That is value neutral. And that's why this whole challenge comes up, where children, they don't know how to determine value to their actions. That's where as a society, if we need to systematize it, then we need this strong component that teaches them how to treat various objects in their life. What purpose? So purpose is governed by how you define it, how you choose to see meaning behind it. As that Maji in my anecdote, so she sees dharma. She sees her actions can lead to positive consequences for me. Do we see that and do we teach that to our children? That is the critical thing. If we use media or if we use any object, any instrument to further benefit for society, for the nation, for the world at large, then that is the essential value that we need to teach.
These days, when we hear talks on yoga and related topics, no talk is complete without the medical terminologies of epigenetics and the other parts. So, what's your opinion about is it the thing that yoga is being digested by the modern science? So, I'd like your views upon that.
Yes. So what's happened is, for example, Swami Vivekananda and such Mahatmas, they went to the West, and there they inspired a lot of scientists who did some research, and when it came to publication, they could not quote our Mahatmas. You understand the challenge? Because it would not be acceptable in journals, In a scientific publication, Mahatma's words have no place. The scientists could have written popular articles or books where they could have mentioned this. But what happens 50 years, 100 years down the line? Only this gets propagated, right? What is there as part of regular scientific literature. Addressing this challenge becomes very, very important. That's why this proposition. If we don't take a clear role in it, it's obviously going to be digested. Digested means the citation is not available to the source. That's going to be obvious outcome. That's already happening. If we don't take a proactive role, that's bound to happen more and more. And then you would not be able to distinguish which has been digested and which has not, because you would have multiple levels of interaction. Already Swami Vivekananda is, so long gone. By now, that would have inspired a lot of people, and so much work would have gone, and you would not be able to trace it back to him. Like that to Maharishi Patanjali, like that to all of Indic literature. Do we want that to happen? No. But that's where proactive research engagement becomes very important, where Indian universities, Indian academic establishments take the lead.
But still we are chasing for scientific approval.
No, not approval. I am talking of a research engagement. Engagement is very different from approval. If you don't engage the world, you are going to be a bystander or you are going to be an island. We don't want to be islands. Right now, even amongst Indians, yoga, Ayurveda, all of these are considered mainstream medicine? No. What are we talking of here? So, you don't want to create islands. You need to make it mainstream. And for that proactive approach, envisioning this as a strategy becomes very important. But where are the kinds of courses, academic research courses and so on that are happening in Indian universities? I don't find any.
I'm working on a project of Gurukulam in Electronic City, Varanasi. So we are going to set up within 6 months. We have taken the challenge initiative that we are going to set up in 5-acre land to our
Wonderful.
kids. And even not it's only the one. I have get the support from almost 5 institutions from India. They are successfully running more than 100 Gurukulam here in India itself. One of the biggest one, 10,000 capacity residential in Haridwar. It's already built. Now they are going to open. Om Shanti Dhama, I think you are aware with that, right? They have the 70-acre land, 70-acre Gurukulam. The guy returned from the South Africa and he did all the establishments. Since last more than 35 years, he is successfully running.
These examples are very, very important because right now education means Finland. While we have such powerful educational models right here under our nose, if these are not published into academic journals and research literature, the challenges that you were mentioning happens. Digestion happens. So that's where a proactive role of government, of policy makers, of individuals, of institutions, all of this becomes very important. It has to drive policy, proactive looking forward policy.
It is happening here, Swamiji. We are in
It is.
touch with that. There's a guy, Mukesh Connector, I think.
Yes.
He's working. Sri Dobhar sir, he's directly, PMO directly involved, and they have already designed the syllabus for everything. We should take the initiative, go and take those things, implement, inculcate, imbibe to our kids. That is our responsibility, not the government's responsibility.
Yes.
We have very good government at the time, and that government should carry for at least for 100 years to make the Vishwa Guru Bharatiya Bharata.
स्टिल अब हमारे यूनिवर्सिटी में बुद्धिज्म पढ़ाया जा सकता है, इस्लामिक थियोलॉजी पढ़ाई जा सकती है, लेकिन वैदिक आइडियोलॉजी या वैदिक सेंटर नहीं खोला जा सकता. मतलब
so that's where as he was pointing out, it's also the political will. See, lack of exposure. If you are not sufficiently exposed to something, what happens is there is a lack of appreciation that comes. Your actions are governed only by what you have been exposed to.
कि कुछ लोगों को जो उसमें से किसी पर्टिकुलर धर्म की खुशबू आने लगती है.
हाँ. So without going into the details, the principle behind this is that if we care for it, we need to expose our children and the students to these. Otherwise, lack of exposure causes lack of appreciation, and that is bound to color our actions. So, to bring in appreciation, exposure is the key.
Can you talk about your experience of silence, 100 days, different periods? So when you look at it from a neuroscience perspective, how do we do it at the third person level? Will it not interfere with the process, or what was one able to observe when this is?
Okay, so this is a very important question. I didn't, I was jumping into the abstract already. So, see what is meant by Mouna Tapasya. Mouna is also a way of insulating. You need various orders of insulation to, what do we do in a laboratory? We insulate and we observe. In the yoga process, similarly, we have processes to insulate ourselves at multiple levels. For example, when I was in Mouna, we had discussed and she had agreed that she would be into a certain sadhana. Otherwise, I was completely physically removed. But strong rina is between us because she is my wife and I'm her husband. No, strong rina. To not have that influence, because if she goes through some emotion, some experience, that would affect me no matter where I am. This is a very practical understanding, though scientifically established or not is not, the concern right now. This is a concrete experience, and hence to insulate, she would be into her sadhana while I am into tapasya. Otherwise, I would not be able to continue. I would have to instruct her, hey, no, this is causing me this disturbance. So you regulate your thoughts, emotions. All of this becomes a unified activity, and hence without her blessings, I would not be able to continue. So you need the blessings of those who you have strong rina with to be able to do tapasya. Tapasya is intense effort, and Mouna is not just physical. We talk of Mouna in terms of para pashyanti madhyama vaikhari. It's not just vaikhari. Vaikhari is just verbal. It's not that. It has to go all the way deep. But for you to achieve reliable results, you need to insulate at that level. Without that, no reliable, experience can be gained. Mouna is nothing big. It's straightforward. You sit with yourselves, and what to do all day long, all night long? Actually, nothing at all. So what do? It's not about doing.
Become aware of your thoughts.
Yeah, but 100 days, what is it to be aware of? In a few days, already everything will subside. But only then you would have simply seen, for example, we did a very small experiment where if your eyes keep moving, it records all this movement. But once your eyes become still, you'll see that inner movements start becoming visible. At deeper and deeper levels of stillness, the subtle movements start becoming visible. Then you can correlate it with cosmic movements. All of this become visible. So that's why in the Yoga Vasishta, for example,
Something like Kundalini.
yeah, much more than that. Kundalini is a phenomenon. You can say subtle physical phenomenon. So it's like you have this electrical wiring. If there can be the structure and this wiring, and that would be the Annamaya Kosha. But for pranamaya kosha to be active, you need to pass electricity. Otherwise, the wiring is intact, but you will not have a live situation. For that to be alive, you need to have the pranamaya kosha, likewise manomaya kosha, vijnanamaya kosha, anandamaya kosha. So each of the koshas you will need to take steps to activate. Otherwise, it will be subdued, and that leads to a certain level of experience, which is not right or wrong. But if you wish to expand it at all those levels, it's concrete effort and it's science, reliable science. You need reliable science because others have done it. It's not like just random, shooting in the dark. So when we say kundalini and such phenomenon, for example, physical phenomena is processed in these senses. Senses we know. Where are thoughts or emotions processed? Are they not processed? Very valid research question. So to that we say chakras and so on. You need to be able to process. Otherwise, how is this reality constructed? That is the Yoga Shastra, Yoga Darshana. It is science. Otherwise, you cannot have reliable construction of reality, the entire universe. It's not random. Random means it's considered adrishya in Indian texts. In Yoga Darshana, it's considered adrishya. Means it's not visible. That means more effort is required for the principles to become visible. So that is yoga. The tools and the methodology and the reliable experience is yoga.
Just when you said the third party part of it, you asked about the third party correlation.
How does a third person perspective come into Mouna Tapasya?
So the third person perspective comes from, how does the third person perspective come in science? Basically, you isolate and reproduce under diverse circumstances. Similarly, you can treat this body-mind mechanism, antakarana, bahyakarana, as a laboratory. And then you'll be able to isolate. And you'll be able to, have deterministic results. Initially, when there are confounding variables, you will have non-deterministic results. To make it reliable, you will need to fix certain parameters. That is what Mouna does. Insulation does that. You'll need to fix certain parameters and then work on specifics. But the fundamental thing is called mumukshutva. You need to have the desire to do this. So that is the driving force. Without that, it becomes excruciatingly painful. Most of us go for retreats. A weekend off is all that we seek. Even that becomes a little longish. This is serious research.
So you talked about how it's reproducible, but in the strictest, speaking in the strictest sense, is it really reproducible? Though I mean, the results can radically diverge. The same for the same sadhana, different people doing it, even when you are controlling all the parameters down to the last detail.
Yeah. So down to the last detail has not emerged. So for example, in data science, we clearly understand that to identify patterns becomes very critical, because patterns means you can predict, okay, this is this, Without patterns, it's just random data. But randomness is in your vision. Adrishya, because the patterns are there. Is it visible to you or not is the question. To make it visible is Mouna Tapasya or yoga. To start making it visible so that the patterns emerge. Otherwise, only the symptoms are visible. For example, you get a symptom of fever. There is definitely a cause or multiple causations leading to that. Now, if that is not visible, you will treat only the symptom. But root cause analysis is not there. Does not mean there are no root causes, right? So that's where you need to take the help of Yoga Shastras, decode it, and take it from there. Then you achieve reliable results. So that much amount of data is there in the yogic lore, but in modern understanding and reach, that is not there. That's why I talked of generating sufficient data. Then with sufficient data, you'd be able to establish patterns. When these happen, that happens. To be able to correlate, causation is much further. But even to correlate, you need sufficient data. Where is that data? Not there yet. But that needs to be a political strategy, overall scientific strategy, given our nation's strength.
Isn't that very subtle realm when we're talking about data like that?
No, but everything is subtle. Even decision making for a CEO is subtle. Don't we have data informing the CEO's decision? Nothing is random, subtle or otherwise. Data is data. See, what is meant by subtle? If you view it physically, there is no correlation between this instrument and that light. But we all know it runs through the same electricity.
I mean the highly subjective nature of these experiences.
That's where we try to decode the subject in terms of an instrumentation, right? Even subject, for example, in Ayurveda,
control groups.
That is to do with methodologies. Right now we have third-person methodologies in place, but first-person methodology is not considered rigorous science yet. But that's where India can take a lead, right? These are all strategies. First-person methodology is Mouna Tapasya, means first-person methodology. My research is very valid. Can we not repeat it? We can repeat it. But that means first-person methodologies need to become mainstream. Right now, they are not, even in our own academic institutions.
So that would mean we getting out of the paper and the research work and actually being practicing something.
So that's where we are talking of science in terms of value neutral versus value centric. So this would essentially make it value centric. You are the center of that experience. Is that not valid?
Yes.
Yeah. But right now in science, is that valid?
No.
That is the challenge. So first person methodologies also need to be included, and that's the way to grow. Right now, they are not. Does that mean it can never be? No. We have sufficient corpus, data available, so many shastras available. That's why we need to mine and then bring it forth. And if we don't do it, who else will? We need to own it up. That's where exposure becomes very critical to be able to appreciate. That's where Gurukulams are. So you can see it's a larger phenomenon.
Yeah, I'll ask you one thing is like, is yoga and science are both contradicting each other? That means if you are trying to say value centric and value neutral, okay, in yoga probably we are going more towards value centric in terms where you have explained in terms of the science is like science value centric and yoga value neutral or one. So let's say if we are going into yoga world where we are.
So generally that is a worldview which is in terms of contradiction, this versus that. Yeah. That's a binary worldview. There is no end to that. We can always keep debating.
Now the question exactly is like, let's say if we are moving our people in more into yoga work, so are we not lacking behind in terms of science kind of thing? Is like, people are making more on paper and we are going. Let's say if we are trying to.
What we are seeing here is taking it together. So we have looked at the limitations or the anomalous conditions that exist with respect to science, scientific theory. And to address those, we need as much science as possible. So we are expanding science. We are not working in terms of this versus that. We are expanding the whole field by including first-person methodologies and so on. We are expanding it.
Our issue